Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Bosnia walk down memory lane. So 30 years ago I was a 27-year-old full bombardier in the Royal Artillery, and we came to Bosnia. We were, had a tour of Bosnia, and that was from January to July in 1996, and we were based in a place called Glamoc, which is where we're going to go to tomorrow. So as you watch through the video, I'm going to take you to places that I was at, or the 5-2 Niagara Field Battery Royal Artillery were at in 1996. So why Bosnia? Well, basically, as a bit of an introduction, so Bosnia, before the split up of Yugoslavia, was ruled by Tito, and Tito was an authoritarian. Basically, he was in control of the whole area, and it wasn't part of Russia, it wasn't part of the West, but he was able to balance East and West really, really well to his advantage. And he passed away in 1980, and then from 1980 to the early 90s there was a lot of quibbles and arguments and intersectarian fighting going on, but it was manageable. And then the Berlin Wall came down, and it was the end of the Cold War in 1990, and that led to quite a lot of famine, poverty, and basically it ended up in a power struggle. And there were certain sides that scrambled for power. Now, what I'm not going to do in this is I'm trying not to name the sides, because for people who are watching this, there's 2 sides, 3 sides, sometimes 4 sides to every story, and it'd be wrong of me to start naming names, so I'll just call them either combatants or one side and the other. But for those of you who know Bosnia and what happened, you can pretty much work it out from where we're going to go to, but I'm just going to try and stay neutral, so just bear with me. So Tito died, Berlin Wall came down, and there's a power struggle. So in the early 90s, Yugoslavia started to break up, and it ended with Yugoslavia being Montenegro and Macedonia, Slovenia and Slovakia, Bosnia-Herzegovina and Croatia. And then later on in the 90s, Slovakia broke up, and then the Kosovo War happened, but that was after my time. I didn't actually go to Kosovo. So in the early 90s, that sort of the breakup started to happen, massive power struggle, and war broke out, and one side against the other. Then the UN got involved to try and stop the massacres that were going on. There was a lot of sectarian violence going on. So the UN eventually got involved, but the UN pulled out in December 1995. And in December 1995, it changed roles to, I'm just going to make sure my camera's working. It changed roles to IFOR, Implementation Force. And 5-2 Battery Royal Artillery were attached to 2-6 Regiment Royal Artillery, and they were backfilled by quite a few other regiments as well, with personnel. There's people from 40 Regiment and 19 Regiment and other regiments that joined us. And we were the first people to be part of the Implementation Force. And the Implementation Force went to various locations all over Bosnia and Herzegovina, and there were other corps, other countries, part of the NATO mission that went to other locations, Croatia and Macedonia, and all over the and they're now fractured Yugoslavia to implement peace. So Implementation Force, IFOR. So 5-2 Battery got tasked with going to Glamoc, which is where we're going to go tomorrow. And as I'll lead on from this, onto the road that takes you through Livno, and we'll start going through the various locations, and I hope you enjoy it. I've got some photographs that I've taken from a long time ago, and what I'm going to try and do is show you the modern version of where they are. A lad called Harry Harris has contributed to some of the photographs, the ones in Glamoc, a couple of famous ones where we got the AS90 in front of the town hall, so we'll try and reenact that. And I hope you enjoy the trip with us, because I'm certainly going to enjoy doing it. So back home for me, my first son was born in 1995 in January, Alex. So when I deployed in January 1996, I deployed with the advanced party because I was a driver of multiple vehicles and all the qualifications, and we actually got called back early from Christmas leave 95-96 because we had to the loading of the boat was advanced basically. We had to come back early from Christmas leave, and we went to Bremerhaven and we started to load the boats. And it took about a week to load the boats, and it was absolute mayhem for those people who did it. It was manic. There was supposed to be a loading schedule, there's supposed to be all organised, but at the end of the day, very much like the Safe Syria Oman deployments, all we did at the end was just pile on the vehicles any which way we could. In their defence, you have a loading plan, but when vehicles keep breaking down, that causes issues as far as the plan's concerned, so you've got to squeeze their vehicles on somehow. So we came back and we loaded the vehicles up, and then we flew out to Split, and then we waited for the vehicles, and as we were down to the port we saw the UN vehicles, and I've got a photo of that. We saw the UN vehicles lined up on the side, and the IFOR vehicles come off the ship onto Split docks, and you'll see the AS90 with its Union Jack flying. That was from 5.2 battery. First AS90 on Bosnian, in fact actually a Croatian ground, to be honest. And then from there we made our way up into the mountains, up into Glamoc, with a huge convoy of vehicles. You have to excuse us. We're in Slavinsky Motorhome Park in Slavenka. Is it alright, Wendy? I think it's Slavenka. Anyway, but we are in Croatia at the minute. So we've just done a huge trip through from France, Belgium, Slovensk it's called. France, Belgium, Germany, Austria, Slovenia, then to Croatia in our motorhome, which is just behind us. So the journey starts, like I said, 27-year-old bombardier, now 57-year-old retired army officer, that's going to take you through the trip. I hope you enjoy it. It'll be a memory lane for me, and we'll see you on the road. We're now going through rural Bosnia, and we're heading down to a place called Livno. You have to excuse me, it's quite a windy road. Through rural Bosnia. Bad bend coming up, so I hand the camera back. It's been like this for quite a while, but we don't mind these roads. We'd rather get out and about than on the main roads. It tells you more about the country. So when the roads turn to this, you know you're in deepest, darkest Bosnia. So this has been going on for about a couple of miles now, and this is one of the main roads down into Split. So what I'm hoping is that we can get around this. Because if we can't, it's a long way around. going to try and do is hopefully just take it nice and easy, which I'm doing now, and get through this. You can drive round it, but it's like 50 miles, probably more. And it's not just roadworks. There's actually, there's things happening in the middle of the road. Like you can see the big machine work there. So there's work ongoing. So I'm not quite sure I can get through this. There was no sign saying road closed, so that's a good thing. But then again, there was no sign saying road open either. It kind of went from a normal road into what you can see now. I don't know where this big lad's going at all. Maybe it goes back into tarmac up there. But we are in the middle of nowhere. A bit odd this, isn't it? It actually reminds us as when we're back in Morocco, like things like this happened, work just happens. Now, what I'm hoping is he doesn't swing round, because that will be bad. Is that clear? So I'm going to turn this off now and concentrate on what I'm doing. But hopefully this ends soon. So we're now on a detour. It sent us off the road closed. There was no getting through. So now on a detour around these country roads. But the thing is with country roads, this motorhome's 3 metres high and 2.5 metres, 2.7 metres wide. So it's eyes in the back of your head time as far as looking for hazards. So I don't mind driving these roads, but when you meet something, it all gets a bit emotional for about 10 seconds, and then things calm down and people reverse out of the way.
Oh, there's a bus.
There's a bus. So it must be closer to a main road then, you'd think, wouldn't you?
This is 400 metres.
400 metres. We've just gone through a big derelict area as well, which was slightly concerning.
You can go horse riding.
Oh, okay. Well, that's quite cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
Horse riding in the middle of nowhere. It's quite warm today as well, so
Hello.
these will be a bit warm. That's nice, isn't it?
Yeah, it's cool.
So obviously we're heading out of
Oh, look.
the real back. Oh yeah, look at the fall. Oh, that's lovely, isn't it?
Oh, that's so cute.
Oh, look at that big one there. Oh, it's having a poo. I won't film that. Typical. Yeah, so we went to a big derelict area. You have to excuse me, I'm changing gear and filming and talking and thinking about the width of the road, state of the road, and anything coming really.
Be careful, we're joining a road.
We're joining a road, okay.
Going left.
They're left.
So, right. Is this a proper road or is this the track again?
I think it's a track again.
Are we good, Wendy? On the right?
Yes.
And back onto the track. can tell they're trying to make some improvements, because that's the, I presume, the old road up there. And these tracks, although it sounds noisy on the camera, it'll sound noisy.
We're going back onto the main road.
Oh, we're going back onto the asphalt up here.
Yeah.
There you go. Oh, that's better, isn't it?
Follow 6098 for 10 kilometres.
Okay. That's just taking us about an hour to do 2 kilometres, but there you go.
It's going off again.
It is going off again, isn't it? Never mind.
This doesn't drop off.
Oh yeah. We have we've really got to watch the you know, when the roadworks start, there's like a ramp. I mean, it's advertised as a ramp, but it's not advertised around here. There's no warning signs. And if we go too fast off it, the back end jumps up, and whatever was on the shelves in the bathroom ends up on the floor.
However, I have fixed my floor dry, but it doesn't happen anymore.
That is very true. We got some little, well, Wendy got some little things off Temu that go around the hooks on coat hooks, and they keep it well secured to the bar that's in the wardrobe. This is fine, actually. This is, you know, fine. Get the old road up there. Right, I expect there's going to be kilometres and kilometres of this. I'm going to turn this off. Oh, we had a slight movement in the bathroom there. And get back to you shortly. So we're now on the back on the motorway, as you can see. The road did eventually get better and better and better. Loads more side roads, and then eventually it spatters out onto this. So we nearly went as far as Split, but unfortunately on this trip we just haven't got the time
After
to...
100 metres, go straight on, 1 towards Zagreb, then take the exit towards Glamoc.
We haven't got the time to go to Split or to Dubrovnik, unfortunately. I just couldn't fit it in, the amount of time we wanted to spend in certain locations. So this is the road from Split up to Livno. So this is the road that we'll have taken when we originally drove from the docks at Split.
Go straight on, 1 towards Zagreb, then take the exit
Up to Livno. So we're now in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and we've just gone through a passport checkpoint to get in here, out of the Schengen zone into Bosnia and Herzegovina. All these trucks are all queuing up to clear customs. So we'll have to remember this, obviously going back over the border, we're going to get caught up in this carnage. Although we don't cross over at this location, but I would imagine that they're all pretty similar. Get cars trying to squeeze by the big trucks that need to clear customs. So we're going to drop down into Livno Valley now, and before we get to Livno, actually this truck's just stopping for no reason at all. I think he's just talking to his mate.
How long it's going to be until the border.
Yeah. So we're going to drop down into the Livno Valley. Livno is one of the first places I'm hopefully going to have a walk down memory lane. Now Livno, for most people, Livno won't mean a lot, but basically if you wanted any water in Glamoc, then you had to get it from Livno, because there was a well and a water point in Livno that was established before.
After 1.2 kilometres, keep right.
Before IFOR arrived. So every 2 to 3 days we used to come down from Glamoc, and it was an MT detail, so I worked for MT's motor transport department. So I worked for the motor transport department for about 3 months, and then I changed over on to the guns, but more about that later. So
800 meters, keep right.
So the MT was up and down from Glamoc to Livno. Yes. So just to finish that off, I had to hand the camera over, because we are now going to buy SIM cards. We've got a modem that's plumbed into the motorhome. We've had it for quite a while now, and it's fantastic. It gives us a little Wi-Fi zone in the motorhome that we use for Amazon and all the rest of the things that need internet these days. Warm today, about 30 odd degrees. So we've just pulled over to get a SIM card. What we're saying is, if Livno was the place you got water from. So this vehicle, basically that vehicle is an IMMLC, an improved medium mobility load carrier, Foden, and they used to have what's called a bean can on the back. Now the one in the picture has got a white bean can on the back, but we had a green one. I couldn't find a picture of a green bean can. So this vehicle used to travel up and down to Glamoc every other day, filling up at Livno, up to Glamoc, pumping it all out into a tank, or sometimes leaving it in the bean can and pumping it from the bean can. But that's how we used to get water. For 6 months that we were there, that was our water supply, up and down, up and down, up and down. And you'll see when I film from Livno, I'll do some of the footage up to Glamoc through the ZOS, the zone of separation, which basically separated two areas that the combatants were fighting on both sides. And it was heavily mined, but more about that later. So we're going to go into this shop now and hopefully get SIM cards, and the next time I will film, we'll be going through Livno, and I'm trying to, I did like a Google recce and I found out where we used to get the water from, and as we drive by, I probably won't stop because it looks quite tight in there. I'll do a bit of a footage, mainly for those people who used to work in the MT, who used to go up and down every single day to collect the water. Like I said, not an important town for most people, but really important if you wanted to drink water in Glamoc. Right, catch you later. So yes, there was SIM cards in there, and that's Wendy. 1 second, let's do it that way around. Oh my word, that's Wendy doing the SIM cards, the important job, whilst I'm eating ice cream. I'm nowhere near responsible enough to do that job. So we learned, all these things, you gather experiences. We learned when we went to Morocco to put the Moroccan SIM card in, you've got to put it in your phone first, and then you initialise it in your phone, register it in your phone, and then you put it in the modem and it works. Well, it worked then anyway.
It's working.
It's working. We heard the whistles come through. So is it 20? There's 20 minutes of talking, 30 minutes.
20 minutes talking, 20 gigabytes of data.
So if we're careful, we've got one for the talking, just in case emergencies, in case anything happens back in the UK. Really, just emergencies. And then the 20 gigs is to watch TV and stuff. And if we need another one, it's you can't top it up, you just buy another one, another SIM card. My ice cream's melting. Wendy at work. This ice cream's minging, by the way. It is. Still eating it though. So we're now dropping down into Livno. What I will say is this place has got a hell of a lot bigger than what it was 30 years ago.
And a lot posher houses.
And the houses are huge as well. So
after 200 meters, turn right, crawl to Catherine, then turn right.
Voice command.
I'm listening.
Clear route.
Clearing route.
So as we drive through here, sorry, I've just had to clear the route off our sat-nav. Ahead of us there is where we used to get the water from, where the big tree on the corner. So we used to park in that car park there, where that white van that says Corpus on it, and we used to take water from a well or a water point just there. And for those in the MT, you will remember that every 2 or 3 days, maybe 4 days, coming down and getting the bean can full of water. So this was our route basically up to Glamoc now. So as we leave Livno and we head towards Glamoc, back then we used to enter the zone of separation, the ZOS, which marked the delineation of the combatant troops basically. So as we went over from one area to another, we had to put our helmets on and our body armour on, only for about 25 kilometres until he got through the ZOS, and then he could take it off again. So this route is about 40 kilometres I think, maybe a little bit less. So if I recognise anything or got a bit of an update for you, I'll get back onto this. In fact, Glamoc is 34 kilometres. So as we leave Livno, there's a right turn to Glamoc, and I remember as soon as you make the right turn, you start climbing up into the mountains, and the water on the back was at the weight limit, or actually just over the weight limit of the Foden drops. It was actually meant for something else, and we sort of modified it to fit on the back of the Foden. Either that or you weren't supposed to fill it up, but we filled it up all the time because inevitably it was us that had to do all the details if we didn't fill it. But coming up these roads now, we used to be literally crawling, like so slow, because of the weight that was on the back of the Foden. We couldn't get any speed up at all. But Wendy's just been saying, were there roads, you know, like asphalt or tarmac roads? Yeah, there were roads, but they're all potholed, and you can see like bullet strafe marks. But what is different, you know, is there's clearly obvious differences. But the last time I come up here, there was all the houses were all wrecked. There's no roofs on any of them, and they're all blown up. I don't think there's any exception to that. I don't think there was any houses remaining that weren't in that kind of state. And what you've got to remember is when you're passing through the zone of separation, or the ZOS, what we are now, is the amount of mines that were laid left and right, obviously to deter the combatant forces either advancing or retreating. And there was thousands and thousands and thousands of mines. And what you couldn't do, and you absolutely couldn't do, is leave the hard standing, or as we call it, the hard standing, the tarmac or the concrete, or anywhere that you could physically see the floor, basically. So you couldn't go on the grass, because if you went on the grass, well, you were straight into a minefield. So for 6 months of the tour, we never went on the grass. This road does bring back memories, curving up into the hills, just plodding away there, and the heat from the engine coming up from the Foden, and when the fan kicked in, the coolant fan, it sounded like you were taking off, like you were in a helicopter. It was that loud. Right, more later. So we've actually stopped for some lunch right on the top as you go up from Livno down to Glamoc. And I'm on the grass and it feels really weird. There is a track, as you can see there. You are? Oh dear, something's exploded in the freezer. On the way up you get these little grave reminders, gravestones, headstones, and a lot of them reading, you know, having done a little bit of reading on this, a lot of them are people tripping over mines, locals, and that one's from 2000. There was thousands and thousands of mines put around here. And when we drove up, every about 100 metres, the Royal Engineers had put little sticks on the side of the road saying Mina and like a red triangle. Who would have thought that 30 years later the then 27-year-old Bombardier Hall would be driving up here in his motorhome to go and visit Glamoc and other locations. Who'd have thunk it, eh? This is a bit weird, isn't it? You know, you can't leave this location without mentioning this. So someone's made a couple of people made out of wood. One's holding a beer and a remote control in his hand, and the other one's pointing in the direction of Glamoc, and they're watching TV. How random is that? Right, lunchtime. So that's lunch, and now we're going down into Glamoc. So we're into Glamoc, and we're going to go for a recce to begin with, for a wild camp tonight. And the recce is to a fishing location in the outskirts of Glamoc. Actually, it's in the Carmen area of Glamoc, which it's a bit of a infamous location, if I'm honest. During our tour towards, well, 3/4 of the way through it, they found a mass grave up in the Carmen area, up in the valley to my left. So that was all, you know, mine tipped off and investigated. I was a bombardier at the time, so you don't really know what came of it, but it definitely happened, and yeah, it was you know, quite a revelation when things like that are brought to your door, really. So during the tour, people started to sort of explore. If you're a bombardier, you could explore a little bit. If you got caught exploring, you're in the shit. If you're a sergeant, you could explore and you could say you're on a recce. So sergeants got away with a lot more than the full screws or corporals did. It's just a different layer of justification, really. If you're a bombardier, you could do so much, but you weren't part of the sergeant's mess. You hadn't got that top cover of being a CNCO, and the sergeants could get away with a little bit more. So towards the end of the tour, a few of the lads started going out fishing. A lad called Martin Hopkins and a few more started fishing in the lake that we're going to go to recce for a wild camp. I think it's just down here. It should say Glamoc fishing on the sign, or I'm just going to cut it off now while I do some turns. So it turns out it was just a left turn. It's not marked, but I just remember it. They're all brand spanking new fishing lodges, but that's been like that for decades, absolute ages. So one of the options is there's obviously a motorhome there. One of the options is stay here for the night. It looks kind of flat. Let the suspension down a bit and we'll be fine. Or we're going to have a look through Glamoc. We're going to have a look through Glamoc first because we've got quite a lot of the day left. But if Martin Hopkins or a couple of others that used to come down here fishing are watching this, then this would bring back memories. So the fishing location is a good wild camp location, but the day is still early. There's still time yet, so we're gonna drive through Glamoc and have a look. Look how busy it is. Because what I want to do is stop by the town hall, which is in the middle of town, and use it as a comparison of an old photograph I've got of when we first rolled into Glamoc with the AS90s. There are some still, you know, damaged houses around, and there's a hell of a lot of like cross-country motorcycles or trucks as well. I've been talked about the mine threat, then they're obviously using marked lanes. It does say about the mine threat when you do like Google searches and stuff, you know, do not stray off marked paths and lanes. So to the right here we've got Banja Luka, we've got Mrkonjić. We're going to those two. But first, it's the time of Glamoc. So I'm filming and driving. What I'm trying to do is not kill anybody and not get too much in the way. So in Glamoc there was a recce regiment, and I can't remember which one it was. I'm sorry about that. They were the other end of Glamoc, where we made a makeshift scrapyard. I'm just looking there because on a couple of occasions we were given the job of turning it into somewhere where people could live and could occupy, and clearing areas basically so people could move back in. And down one of these streets to the right we cleared off a basketball court. Random task, I know. And there's a blown up building next to it, and a lad called Klaus Roberts, myself and about 4 or 5 others were doing the job, and next thing I knew he starts playing the piano in this old broken down collapsed out house. A piano had survived and Klaus Roberts was playing The Entertainer on this piano, and it was absolutely like a surreal experience. Can I go up here?
Yeah, it's more my system.
So this building on the right here, I'm going to actually stop over here under these trees. This building on the right, we used to call it a town hall. It might not even be a town hall. I'm going to take a bit of footage outside and do a compare and contrast. look at some wrecked buildings. Look through there. Anyway, we're doing this basketball. It was towards the end of the tour, sort of July '96, and it was the most random, surreal thing. Probably one of the most random, surreal things I've ever had. Everything was blown up. Everything was no roofs, nothing at all left. This place here, I'm going to put some pictures on to show you exactly what it was like. And I'm going to stand over here, hopefully not get run over. I'm going to stand over here and point my camera towards that direction there. And now you see that building as it is. And now I'm going to put a couple of pictures on how it looked when we were here. Harry Harris took these pictures. Fantastic photographer. And as you look down that street there, I'm going to put a picture on now of what it looked like when we were here, and also that street up there. That is a bit weird coming back here and seeing that. You could say it's a bit weird talking to a GoPro, but I'm that used to it now that, you know, everyone stares at you, but you pretty much get used to it. Stares and talks and yappers and yatters, and I just don't care really. So up there is a castle. As you go on top of one of the hills, and when we did battery PT, we used to run from the sawmill, which I'm going to take you to now, up this road, round there, staying on hard standing obviously, up the hill to Glamoc Castle. We used to do some press-ups and sit-ups and a bit of PT up there, and then run down all the way back to the sawmill, which is where our accommodation was. Looks a bit run down. In some of the pictures on Glamoc, on the internet, it looks new, but it's been painted. Still quite beaten up, Glamoc. It is. I mean, some of this isn't just not changed. Those buildings through there. There was one or two shops opened right towards the end of the tour. In this, about this location here, and you could get pop and biscuits and things like that, but not much. When we first got it, it was absolutely, you know, there was no one here, absolutely no one here. And the first time we drove through here, it was dark. It was January, and it was the eeriest thing, you know, you've ever known. Driving through these streets where everything's blown up, bullet strafes everywhere, bomb marks everywhere, cars blown up on their roofs, the side of the street, dumped vehicles, bullet cases on the floor. And you drive through with your military vehicles and your AS-90 armoured vehicles and take up residence here for 6 months. I'll take it back off you, but... Okay, so now we're going to turn right here and we're going to go to the sawmill where I was based with 5.2 Niagara battery, January to July in '96. So a lot of these houses, you know, I hate to say it, but not much has changed. See all the battered houses?
Looks like a battery block.
That's nice, isn't it? To do Wendy then. That was like an accommodation block in Osnabrück. Nice one. So we're heading towards the airfield now. More about about the airfield in a bit. Yeah, this is our PT route. We used to, like I say, run to the Glamoc Castle and back again. So our accommodation was just down this road on the right hand side. There was, like I say, there was a recce regiment based here, but I can't for the life of me remember where it was.
That's a priority road.
So I'm going to keep this running because, you know, it may evoke some memories from hopefully one or two people. It's definitely evoking memories for myself, looking at all these houses that haven't changed. 30 years has passed. 30 years. So the sawmill should be over to our right hand side when these trees clear. And there's no one behind me, so I can slow down. And there it is. There's the sawmill.
I just there's a picture of you stood out there.
Yeah. So what I'm going to try and do is park up and have a walk around. It's better to ask for forgiveness than permission sometimes. So for this occasion we'll take that approach. I've got an orange battery on here, so can you hold that while I pull in here, please?
It's a logging place.
It is, yeah. Sawmill. So, once you run to the right hand side so you can see the way in. So this was the main, actually this wasn't the main way in. When we left, this was made to be the main way in. But actually, when we first got here, the main way in to this area was down there. But that's obviously been turned around and turned into something else. But yeah, that is the sawmill. I'm going to park up now to have a look around. So out the front here, I remember in the winter it was absolutely quaggy and boggy and horrible. It was just, and Baz Prosser and a few others got the task of getting some hardcore, some stone from somewhere and filling it all in because it was really quaggy. So Baz Prosser got about 10 or 15 lads together, went out, I don't know where he went to, and got a load of hardcore on a couple of Bedfords and filled it in. Right, I'm going to park up now. I'm going to change this battery, park up, and we'll go for a wander. So as we drop down, we've got the motorhome now. Wendy's just spotted. She's really good at spotting things like that. Look, an artillery cat badge on the outside of the sawmill. When we got here, Wendy, let's go this way, love. Let's go round this way. When we got here, Andy Kitson was the recce officer, and Tom, what was his name? BSM was called Tom something. Tom Anderson? Oh, I can't remember his name, sorry. Anyway, Andy Kitson was the recce officer. And we got up here and it was pitch black dark, you know, no one living here. And he drove us straight into the hangar. See, it says QRF vehicle there. That's quite cool, isn't it? Drove us straight into the hangar and parked us up. And then the morning after, all hell broke loose. And basically, they'd put us into an area what hadn't been cleared. It was 90% cleared, but there was a lot of munitions where the BQMS's store was that they didn't find, they hadn't found when the engineers cleared it. So we had to, yeah, we had to get out of here and we had to go onto the grass next door. This here was the guard room. Yeah. So this was our guard room for that time. There's a camera there, see it? And I'll tell you now what did that. That was a drops hook that did that, and probably that as well. That's locked, there's a chain on that, but we'll try and get round it. Yeah, that's locked, that is. We'll have water on the outside, hopefully we can get in. I've had my picture taken out here in an S90. I was on the MT at the time, and I remember a couple of lads on the guns shouting, "Oi, what are you doing stood next to that gun?" Just ignored them. So we're going to walk around and see if we can get in, because like I say, that other door's locked, but there was quite a lot of entrances to this place. Yeah, so Andy Kitson put us in the hangar first, then brought us out and put us on the grass over to the right hand side there, as you can see, and we stayed there for a couple of nights actually, until the engineers came and cleared the building. So my room was one of the rooms on the top floor. Yeah, the rooms on the top floor were all converted from offices into accommodation. And what we did, we put we got wood burning stoves from the local houses that were derelict. There was no one living in them, so we weren't robbing them, we were just reappropriating them. And it was that cold here, it was absolutely freezing, that when we first got here there was no heating. So we made our own means of heating. And you see the windows, they've got no glass in them, or some have and some haven't. Well, the irony was that when we got here there was a load of mattresses in sort of plastic covers, and we used the plastic covers to make windows, and those plastic covers lasted us for the whole 6 months. And you made do, you know. Along here eventually there was a shower block and toilets in like a Corrimec. Over there that was the POL, the petrol, oils and lubricants shed. I'm just going to look in here, see if I can get in here. So let me tell you a story about these drain covers first before we go in there, because I think we can get in there. When we were here with the toilets, you used to do your toilet in like a cellophane bag, and then it used to be burned. And squaddies being squaddies, you know, got a bit bored burning the poo, as we used to call it. So right at the corner where that spiral staircase is, which actually came down from the sergeant's mess, because there's a sergeant's mess here, why wouldn't there be, was the place we used to burn all the poo off to one side. And there was a drain cover there. So a lad called Ronnie Corbett, who actually works for a Formula 1 team now, what we used to do is this, you know, we sort of, it went from let's burn the poo to let's put a bit of petrol on it, make it burn quicker so we can get out, you know, do something else. So 20 litres of petrol went on this, and then Ronnie got called away to do something else, and a lad called Daz Redfern turned up and then put another 20 litres on, because why wouldn't you? Daz Redfern got took away and Ronnie Corbett turned up and thought, it's been quite a while, the petrol will have, you know, it'll have gone by now. So put another 20 litres worth of petrol down there, and then stood back and threw a like a lit piece of tissue into it. Well, these drain hole covers here, every single one of them went boof, 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 boof. And every single one of them jumped about 20 foot in the air. Because what had happened is all the vapours had gone down into the bottom. You can see the drain hole covers there. Every one, blew up into the air. And Ronnie just, obviously did a runner. And there was hell to pay for that. We thought we'd been attacked. That didn't happen just once, that happened quite a lot of times, but after that, that was enough. They only allowed us to put like 10 litres of fuel on, which was a bit boring. Let's have a look in here, shall we? See if there's any. See if we can get in here. We might not be able to. That's only a small room. See if we can get into here. So this downstairs is where the MT lads used to sleep. Woody and crew used to sleep down here in these rooms. And these rooms were converted with... Wendy, come in. Because you might get lost. These rooms were converted using local wood to make bunk beds. There's a lot of rat shit around here, by the way. Yeah, so Scouse Morel, Woody, lads from 40 Regiment, all converted these into their own rooms. And I bet you now someone's looking at the camera going, yeah, that's where I used to be. Used to be bunk beds in there. Gets a bit dark, but that's fine. Yeah, this was MT accommodation. Anyway, so that was one of the main doors into the hangar, which we can't go through. But what we will do is, I'll try and find my room. The med centre was through there. That was all that was through there. But as we go up the stairs, and then we get to the top, you turned right for the sergeant's accommodation. We called it the sergeant's mess, which was down there. And my accommodation, my bedroom, was up here. And it wouldn't be surprising if those pieces of wood are the remnants of the beds that were made. I've just got to be a bit careful because it is quite dark down here. I just don't want to stand on anything, nails or something. It's really weird looking at these rooms because they all were accommodation. They all were, really nicely done out towards the end. Wood burning fire, mattress covers for windows. Don't step on that. What I'm looking for is my room. Well, no. Well, I can remember it being all the way down here on the left. And we put a dirty great hole. It wasn't that one. We put a dirty great hole in the wall for a fire burning stove to go. I think it was here. I think it was this one. Just bear with us. I'm going to do a little bit further because I don't think it was there. It definitely wasn't there. No, it was this one here. It was this one here. Yeah, it was this one here. So this was my room for 6 months. And we put a, there must be a hole behind there because we put the wood burner straight through there. You can see obviously someone's wrote Max Corner there. But my bed space was there. Yeah, it's obviously 30 years ago, so what I'm going to try and do is trying to remember where the door was, and I think it was there. It was, yeah. Yeah, I can't remember. I think it was here. Someone's painted up on the roof. It's quite a nice view out there. I've got a picture of the view in the snow, and I'll put that for you to see on now. So basically that view was across here. This is weird coming back 30 years later like this. But you make do, you know? And when we arrived, we looked in there and we thought, it's dry and it's going to be warm when we eventually get it sorted out. I'll take you down to the sergeant's accommodation because there might be people watching this from that lived at that end. We weren't allowed in there. I was a bombardier. Quite proud to be a bombardier as well, actually. So before this tour, this is 1996, remember. Before this tour, all we'd done is island tours. We did the Maze Prison, which was boring. Then we did Knocknacloy for 6 months. In 92, January to July. And then we did North Belfast, Ardoyne, and the Ligoneel in 94, January to July. So this was a welcome change from Northern Ireland. I'm hoping to get in the hangar downstairs, but if it doesn't work out, at least I've got up here. At least we've done this bit. Yeah, so this was closed off, but in here, this was the sergeant's mess. So this was loads and loads of like self-made bunk beds where the CNCOs used to live. And out here, I think, was a spiral staircase that went down. Yep, there it is. You come in. Wendy's a bit dubious about this. She doesn't like she didn't like the tunnels in Gibraltar, but this is okay, love. I mean, it's still here 30 years later. So. POL store over there. Let's go get ourselves down here. Hopefully there's not a gate at the bottom stopping us getting out. That's another one of the drain covers that Ronnie blew off. It was very funny. It was funny about an hour and a half, 2 hours later. It was very, very funny. But when it happened, Jesus Christ. Right, I'm going to walk around the back. So around the back was the entrance to the cookhouse. And here, these sort of foundations, this is where the Corriemecs were. They're like temporary accommodation, but they weren't accommodation, it was showers and ablutions. And this is where we used to dump the bean can off to feed all your blue. Oh yeah. Yeah, blue and red. So in this area here was the area that they found the munitions after we got here, and they had to get the engineers back in to get rid of it all. It's locked. So that's the drain there. That's the infamous drain there. That very one. That's the one that Ronnie put 60 litres of benzene down and then blew up the shit. It went about 30-40 metres in the air. And then all you heard was doo, 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 doo all the way down. Good lad. Top lad, Ronnie. So that's an electrical substation down there that we weren't allowed in, so we just didn't go there. But round here on the left hand side is where the BQMS was. So the BQMS was in there. I'm going to try this door. Maybe we're lucky, maybe we're not. There's cow shit everywhere. God, it stinks of pee round here. Someone's been living round here. So this was a one-way circuit, and the way we're walking around it now is actually the way you drove around it. And we had a, you know, every artillery likes to have a backdoor training area, like you do. And our backdoor training area was down there on that piece of concrete. And we used to go down there and do our drills, do dry fire missions, and just keep the crews trained up. That was another way into the BQMS, in that corner. And in there, the secret thing about that is that on your downtime you try to stay out of the way, because if you're on your downtime and the silenciers caught you, they would dick you for something, some shit task. So what we used to do, and keep it a secret, is go through that gate there and sunbathe near the wall on the right hand side. Well, obviously over time someone's drawn pictures on the bottom of that, so it's gone from a secret sunbathing location to a let's have this as our sort of retreat location, like Scotties do. Like I said, that down there was the dry firing drills location. But in the winter this was absolutely boggy. I mean, it was just, remember, you got the size of a Krav going through here, ripping everything up, and the S90's going through here, and it was just up to the axles. At some point we ended up going onto there and up the side there to get out. So in there was the like I say, BQMS and MT. It doesn't look like we're going to get in, which is unfortunate, really, because I wanted to show you inside. We never went in there. When I say never, we probably walked across once or twice in the whole tour, and it was just another sawmill. But obviously it's used now, whereas back then there was no one here. So this has had some activity around this door, so we might be lucky, or we might not be. Bollocks. That's a fat no. You can't say I didn't try. What I'll do is I'll put some pictures on here now to show you what it was like in there. Basically it was divided into two. The left hand side was where all the drops vehicles went and all the guns, and to the right hand side was REME, BQMS and MT. We once, Woody and I, Mark Wood, great friend of mine, we were once on a detail, a driving detail, a task, going down to Split, or it could be any mechanic squad, it could be Thomas Lavgard, could have been anywhere. But it was through the snow, and we had snow chains on, and it was really, really deep, the snow, you know, really deep. And when we came back to here at night time, there was no one here, everyone was in bed. So we reversed into the hangar like you do, and no, that's a store in there. Someone's actually using that as a live store. So we reversed into the hangar, parked up, and the morning after we had a whole lot, what, floored, you know, someone's left a tap on, there's something defrosted, something's happened. And as we walked down there, Woody and I walked into the main hangar where the flooding was, and obviously overnight it had all defrosted, and there must have been 300 or 400 litres worth of water, and the whole bloody bottom of the hangar was flooded out. And then it was, how, and there was an inquiry then, how did this happen? And me and Woody just looked at each other, raised our eyebrows, and sort of snuck off to do something else that didn't involve being there at that time. No one found out. Andy Kitson went crazy. Good old Andy Kitson. Here we go. Wendy! Wendy's staying out here. So in here was the REME, and actually it was a vehicle park. This is where I think the Krav used to be. And this is where you used to, so in the 90s, in 96, we used to have a lot of problems with the gun, AS90, its fuel tanks. They were splitting all the time. So this is where you'd park up your gun for the fuel tanks to be taken out, to be welded up or replaced, and then put back in again. AS90s went through that problem for about 2 or 3 years. The seams on the tank were ground down that much that it just caused it to be weak, and it leaked. I'm not quite sure that's going to be open. I think our luck has run out here. That looks to be locked to me. I don't know. Yeah, it is locked. Bollocks. Yeah, someone's store. What I'm doing is I'm looking through the little hole there. Can you see the little hole? Well, down there was the BQMS and the MT. And as you go through to the other side, it was the guns and the Fodens. But we've gone as far as we can, My memory's coming back from this place. Bloody hell, this is weird. 30 years later, coming to walk round. I'll tell you what we did do as well. Now, on the roof, let me see if there's any left. On the roof, there used to be a tannoy system, and the speakers were triangular in shape. It's probably for some kind of announcement when this was a working wood mill. But what we did, we climbed up and took them down, some of them, mainly from the other side. Obviously there's been hundreds and hundreds of squaddies since 1996 been in here, so the rest of them have obviously been taken. But we used to get radios, like cassette radios, brought those over with us, and then we put the speakers from the roof into the Foden and then wired it to the battery system. Yeah, they look like army, don't they? How bizarre, eh?
Door there with an H on it. I don't know whether that means anything. At the back.
It just says hotel on it.
Oh, okay. It's just
Someone's obviously used it for something. So that's Glamoc sawmill. It's a shame that's not open that side, but you've only seen you've seen 80% of it. Unfortunately, you didn't see the BQMS, or you didn't see the guns side. It's really weird, this, you know, standing here 30 years later. So much has changed.
I don't think I've got a picture of the URL.
There's a scrapyard just down there, and Woody, Mark Wood, and I were detailed or tasked to run a basic driver course. So to be qualified to teach a basic driver course, you go on a driving and maintenance instructors course at Bovington. So we did, Mark Wood and I did, AS90, the gun, and the IMLC, the Foden, which permitted us to teach basic driver courses and advanced driver courses. So where we looked for that sneaky hole just in the door there at the other end, we set up a classroom. And on your DMI course, you sectionalise models and you strip things down just to explain to people without mechanical knowledge how it works, how the oil is so important, where the power works, how it rotates, why maintenance is so important, and equipment husbandry, just to keep the vehicles on the road, as well as systems, you know, and general description. And then there was a driving leg of this course, but the driving leg was quite restricted. It was on the airfield and around a few controlled cross-country circuits. But we went to the scrapyard down there and got all these gearboxes and models and other bits and pieces of the same construct as the AS90 that we were teaching, and we sectionalised them all and we made a classroom. And as you go up on through Glamoc up onto the hills, there's a school on the right hand side, and we went up there and got the blackboards out and the little kiddie chairs. It was quite weird because you had grown squaddies sitting on like junior school seats, looking at the blackboards, using, you know, chalk and the blackboard to learn lessons. Right, let's see where we're going to go next. So that was the way in before it was changed. So what we're going down to here is the scrapyard on the right hand side that I told you about, which it might not be a scrapyard anymore, it might be a wood mill. There seems to be quite a lot of wood mills down here. So as we drive out of Glamoc,
there was some sign on that.
what was there?
Yeah. So
One of these was a scrapyard. Anyway, as we drive out of Glamoc this way, one of these junctions, I think it is this one here, had an overturned truck, and it was blocking the road, and everyone used to go around it on the grass. And this truck must have been like 16 tons. It must have been more than 16 tons. It was huge, overturned. They'd obviously used it as a barrier, or some kind of a barrier to stop vehicles coming in during the war. and Woody and I got tasked to go with JCBs. So basically, FLRT, forklift rough terrain. It was like an army forklift, basically. And our task was to move it out of the way. Well, we couldn't lift this bloody thing. It was so heavy. So we ended up with the forks rolling it off the road into the ditch. And then towards the end of the tour, they made the makeshift scrapyard. And lo and behold, Woody and I got the task of getting it out of the ditch, put it onto like a vehicle recovery flatbed task trailer to be taken to the scrapyard. Well, this bloody thing was so far in the ditch. It took us about 3 days of pulling and moving. We just got an armoured vehicle to pull it out in the end. So on the left hand side back there was the first, the houses we've passed on the left, was the first person we ever saw that was living in Glamoc. It was an old man. Now for those of you who remember the Led Zeppelin cover with the man with the sticks on his back, well, he was like that. He must have been in his 80s, and he'd refused to leave when the war broke out, and he'd been there all the time, living God knows how. So we were going sort of up and down the roads, moving things, and he had something blocking his drive. So we pulled over and talked, and you know, it's nice to pass the day. And my chicken Bosnian and his lack of English, so we moved whatever he wanted out of the way. I think it was a car or a truck smart, and he said, you come in, come in, come in. So he sat inside this house. I mean, this guy was living out of a shell of a house, bless him. And he said, you have water or coffee? No, it was water or coffee. Now, I can't remember this bit down here. Why has this got a fence around it? I can't remember it. Maybe it's a military camp. Can't remember that. It was probably out of bounds and full of mines when we were here, so whatever hell, didn't it? So we went into this guy's house, and it wasn't water he gave us, it was Slivovich. Oh my god. I tell you what, it nearly blew my head off. And then the next time it was, do you want water? I said, no, that's not water. I know now. And he laughed. He said coffee, so he gave me the coffee, and this coffee was like tar. It was like bitumen. So he got to be nice and he got to be polite. So we had this coffee and left, and Jesus wept. You know, the next time we went, we took our own coffee and offered him our coffee. He didn't like our coffee. So this is the airfield. This is where we used to come with the AS90s to do some of the deployments. We used to park on the right hand side, face our barrels towards that way, and then do some dry deployments. Later on in the tour, there was an artillery range, and the artillery range was, we're actually going to go to it now. But whilst we're here, whenever we put the barrels over the grass, we had to shimmy along the barrel to take the muzzle brake cover off, and then shimmy back on to bring it back on again, because we couldn't go on the grass. So over to the right hand side is Glamoc range, and as a full screw I got given the task of making some signs. The translator, it basically said do not enter range or something like that. So I had to make 20 of these signs. So I made 20 of these signs, and then you know, a guide took us out to place them. But again, the irony was there was no one there who was going to read the sign. When we were there from January to July, there was literally no one here. It was absolutely, you know, well, there was the old man and that was about it. like we're going to wild camp at the fishing place back through Glamoc, which is fine. But another alternative was to the right here, which I'm going to pull into. So another photo that I'm going to show you is of me and a lad called Gilly from 40 Regiment in the snow on Stag, and we were stood just on the entrance here, just there, so stopping people coming in. We were stood there in the snow on Stag, me and Gilly, 2 full screws, stopping people coming in. And then round here, this is where the guns used to deploy to. And this range was used for a good number of years. I mean, we, like I said, January to July 96, we were the first people into Glamoc. There was no one before us. It was UN, and they were not based in Glamoc, and we were here first. So the guns used to park on here with barrels pointing that way, and there was a range in the distance on the hills. So I'm actually driving through a gun position right now. I bet there's still some Don 10 somewhere. Stuff gets everywhere. And the ammunition vehicles used to park around the back here. So I did 3 months as a convoy commander bombardier, and then another 3 months as a gun coverer at 2IC of an artillery system, AS-90. So on the crew there's supposed to be 10 people, but there's never 10 people on AS-90. We couldn't afford the staffing of it, and it was manpower in those days because there were no girls actually. So I'm not out of place if I say, you know, manpower, because it was just men. So this is where I used to park all the ammunition vehicles. Whilst we used to restock the guns, so we can either wild camp there in that pull-in or back at the lake. What do you want to do?
Lake's a bit prettier, isn't
Okay,
it?
we're going to go back to the lake.
That pull-in looks like there's lots of glass and
Yeah,
stuff.
no, you're right.
Tyres.
Yeah, you're right. See, because I was MT for the first 3 months, I only ever saw this place when it was covered in snow. So seeing it now is a bit weird. But yeah, that's the airfield. Well, we used to call it the airfield.
It's like a range.
It does look like a range over there, doesn't it? Clear from the right?
Yeah.
But I suppose, you know, the military bases will be the obvious place for booby traps and for mines and for anything else that nasties that want to trip people up, as either one combatant or the other goes forward or retreats. So we never went in any of the Yugoslavian army camps. Again, this place left and right there's so many mines. Couldn't leave the airfield.
I'm listening.
Cancel.
Stopping voice control.
My sat-nav is pathetic. When you don't want it to speak to you, it speaks to you. And when you do want it to speak to you, you know, it doesn't. Yeah. It's like Wendy said, there's military buildings over there. But for the life of me, I can't remember. Well, like I said, we wouldn't have gone near it anyway because probably booby traps and mines everywhere.
Maybe it wasn't built.
No, maybe it wasn't built. So tomorrow we're going to go back across the airfield and head up into the mountains to a place called Cold Hussar, where it was one of the positions we had on the ZOS, the zone of separation, to stop the two combat. There is this person on stag there, look. There's a guy on stag, little Bosnian guy. Yeah, where we used to man the zone of separation to stop the combatants kicking off again after NATO had left. But for now we're going to go back to the lakeside and we're going to get up our wild camp. Everything's full. We've got the dog there, look, Waddy dog. We've got full batteries, we've got full water, full gas. Our toilet is empty and we're good to go. Yeah, definitely an army camp. There's other soldiers there as well. So for now, from Glamoc until later, I'll sign off and catch you on the road up to Cold Hussar.